The EA press conference was a mix of ups and downs for sure. I mean, they made some announcements and we saw some games that we enjoy, but there were definitely some things that they said that made people pretty upset, and in my opinion, rightfully so, probably. So it started off with Dead Space 3, and that's the premier survival horror these days. Probably the only game that's still really true to that genre at this point, but from what I actually saw at E3, it looked much more to be like an action game. I mean, I think it just has to do with the fact, really, that showing the action sequences and the big set pieces kind of just get people more excited at E3. I think that might have been really what was going on with the trailer and some of the footage that we saw. But nevertheless, at this point, it definitely kind of looks more to be action-oriented, which may be the case. Who knows? I really can't say at this point. Even just still regarding that, though, the game looked really good. It was interesting, and one of the things that I really liked was one of our staff members here, Joakim, said Dead Space meets Lost Planet, and that was kind of the look and the feel I was getting when they were outside. The sky had some really vibrant, like purple and red hues in it, and it was kind of nice to see some color put into the Dead Space world. I think a lot of it's so dark, especially roaming around those spaceships. So it was definitely kind of a nice change of pace for the series, and it still held that horror feel to it. Even though it was strangely beautiful, it was also intimidating in the same way. So definitely nicely done, and it looks pretty, and I always love when color is brought to worlds. I'm just a huge fan of color when it comes to games, so definitely something that excited me. Then we saw something that I'm actually kind of excited for. The first was SimCity Facebook, and I'm all for social gaming. Not a huge social gamer myself. Still have yet to play Farmville. I probably should try it because I've talked about it about 10 or 12 times so far throughout my gaming journalism career. But, this kind of looks to be the competitor to that. And it looks to bring a lot of the fun that is SimCity kind of to the Facebook realm, which I think is cool, and I think it's an interesting way for people to play and kind of beats the excitement of just having a farm. I'd rather be building and managing a city than a farm. But that's me. And then, the next thing that came immediately after that was just SimCity for the PC, the new SimCity. And even though none of this stuff was new, I hadn't seen it previously before this, and I'm sure a lot of people haven't. And it looked really interesting to me. I think one of the things that really stuck out to me was the interconnectivity of city economies, like how you could have an entire world where neighboring cities, so you'd be building your own city, and say if you were playing multiplayer, someone else could be building another city next to you, and your economies and your choices and stuff would affect one another. So I thought like actually kind of having a global economy and actually having repercussions for people around you and their actions was a really interesting addition to the city. So after SimCity, they announced probably the biggest downer, I guess, in this whole conference, and maybe even the biggest downer of today, possibly, was Battlefield 3 Premium. And I don't think the service in itself is all that bad. I mean, it's pretty similar to Call of Duty Elite. For the price of like $49.99, you opt to get all previous and future DLC packs. You're going to get additional items, in-game items, exclusive in-game items, camos, I think weapon camos, and dog tags. Additionally, you're also going to get more extensive battle log features. So, I mean, it's not bad, but the thing that really comes across, and, even me thinking about this in a pragmatic sense, the thing that really comes across as iffy is just how late this game is into its cycle. I mean, realistically, for most people, it might already be past its prime for a lot of people, and I mean, I know a lot of people still play the game, but for those other people, it's probably, halfway through. And now they want to offer a premium service that you pay a year for. It just doesn't seem correct to me. I mean, it seems a little iffy. If they were going to bring something like this out, they should have done it sooner. It feels like now they're just seeing that, Activision's making money with Call of Duty Elite, and they're kind of trying to play catch up. That being said, the total value of the DLC packs that they're offering to come with this is at $75, and they're charging you $49.99, so it's not terrible. But again, the fact that the game is halfway through its life cycle kind of devalues all future packs and things like that, at least in my mind. So a lot of people are upset about this, and I do think rightfully so, and it might actually be kind of the foreboding of the slippery slope of, installments like this, such as Call of Duty Elite and now Battlefield 3 Premium. Some news on Star Wars Old Republic, the competitor to World at Warcraft, was discussed a little bit more at length. One of the more interesting things that they said, and something that really intrigued me, was that from now on, it's going to be free to play up to level 15, so anyone who hasn't gotten a chance can get a chance to go in and play. I'm guessing that this is going to be very similar to what World of Warcraft does with their free trials, where it's you can go in and play, but your connectivity and how you can react with other players is somewhat restricted. You probably won't be able to join parties, and you might have some chat functions limited. But nevertheless, you can still definitely go in and get a feel for the game, so it's something worth a try, especially a game that's highly acclaimed as this one is. So besides the upbeat Battlefield 3 announcement, Medal of Honor Warfighter was also shown by EA, and while it looks, at least in my opinion, how it looked, wasn't all that different than the other tactical shooters that we're accustomed to with obviously Battlefield and Call of Duty, there was one way that this game separated itself, and it was in the fact that all of the places that are present within this game are going to be dependent on either a past operation that has existed somewhere in some military function, or a current hotspot in the world. So every place that you're going to see and everything kind of you're going to partake in has some actual real-world relevance to it, which I think is an interesting and very different take on the war shooter. I think a lot of times we like to pick enemies in kind of situations that don't have any real real weight to them, and this is going to kind of change it up. How is that going to act for actually playing and shooting? Might be a different outcome than we expect, but it's definitely something to pay attention to in the future. Additionally to that, EA Sports was shown with EA Social, specifically with FIFA 13. It was just showing a lot of ways to connect through their new social hub. You're going to be able to trade with players. You're going to be able to import games, stuff like that. And like I said, sports games, new iterations don't always get me that excited when it comes to E3, but anytime that you're able to take progress, especially in a sports game, because seasons are so incredibly long. I will say this right now, I've yet to ever finish a sports season in any game that I've picked up and played. So the ability to carry on into the next game just sounds amazing to me. So that's something from FIFA 13, and anyone who's a fan of that game should be excited for, at least to be able to bring the progress that they've all put into 12 ahead and over into 13. And speaking of one more shooter, they did show Crysis 3. Using their own engine, they just make games look beautiful. That's all there is to it. I mean, you see a bunch of other games that EA showed, and then you see this game, and it just, it stands head and shoulders, I think, above everything else. The colors are very vibrant. Everything looks clear and crisp. It looks like it's on another system, at least from my standpoint. But as far as gameplay goes, I didn't see all that much different. It still seemed very much like Crysis 2, but when the game was as solid as Crysis 2 was, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Overall, EA, definitely didn't come with too many surprises. There was one announcement, I think, that really made a stir, but it wasn't in the direction that they were hoping. But overall, yeah, pretty standard showing from EA, and I think we kind of expected what we saw.